Hello, I'm Kay Phillips, and welcome to the Professional Viewpoint. Here we tap into the minds of the expert, get their views, reviews, and tips of professionals from various backgrounds. Today's guest is Amani Gordon, very dear to me. And Amani is an immigration consultant practitioner as well as a legal case worker. Welcome, Amani. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. So we just wanted to ask you, Amani, what does it mean to be a immigration practitioner, consultant, as well as a legal caseworker?
Okay, so an immigration consultant practitioner is basically somebody who is qualified in immigration law. So it can be in immigration, asylum, and human rights, or it can just be specializing in one area of immigration law. As you may imagine, immigration is such a huge sector. So you do have practitioners like myself that decide to specialize in it. You can have lawyers that do so and solicitors that do so. But when you're a consultant practitioner, it just means, out of all the other areas of law, you've decided to specialize in this. And that's one of the things that I've decided to do. While I do other areas of law, I really love immigration. And that's what it means, immigration consultant practitioner. And that's why I love it.
Awesome. That sounds very condensed for a lot of work, but I'm sure you'll explain a little bit more. Can you just tell us how long you've been practicing for?
Sure. I've been doing law in general for over 17 years, but as an immigration practitioner this month, it is my 10th year. So my 10th year in practice.
Congratulations. Well done on your achievements. So, in view of what the current situation, what can you tell us about the impact that the current pandemic is having on immigration as it relates to, for example, family or settlement or employment?
Yeah, well, those three areas have completely changed as practitioners. We are just surprised with the amount of changes that have been made just because of the pandemic. So, for example, the standard procedure, you've mentioned areas which is settlement, family and employment, and I'll just go into that. So basically what would happen is if you decide to settle in the UK and get indefinite leave to remain or citizenship, normally you would have to pass a life in the UK test and an English language test, depending on what country of origin that you're from. So one of the things that would normally happen is you'd need to make an application in time to either become British or to get ILR. And then to do that application, you would need to complete those tests and provide a code. So this code is issued by the test centres. So you take your English test or your life in the UK test, you'd get that code, and then that would be generated. You'd put it in the form. That form would be submitted to the UKVI, and your application could be considered. And that's a normal procedure. However, with social distancing, it has meant that a lot of clients and a lot of applicants have not been able to get into a location to take the test. And that has meant that even if their application, let's say, for example, was due the 1st of April and everything had closed by that particular time, it would mean that they would not be able to complete that part of the application because they wouldn't have the code generated by the test centre, and that would mean that their application could potentially fall for refusal. So it's just one of the areas that has made such a big impact on. The other areas, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the other areas, for example, is in relation to entry clearance. So, and this is in particular in relation to family aspects of settlement. So for entry clearance, normally, and most visas, you'd get a 30-day time frame in which to come over to the UK and collect your BRP, so your biometric residence permit from the post office. But because of the closures that have happened either this end or the other end in terms of border closures, it has meant that a lot of applicants that have gotten their visas aren't able to travel. And so that means effectively that 30-day time period lapses. What the UKVI have done is they have said, okay, if you've got a 30-day permit and either the UK side are not accepting you because of because of closures or because your country of origin hasn't opened up, we will provide you with another 30-day visa, and this can go on until the end of the year. You just need to apply for it. So that's a positive that's happened, especially in the family aspect. But the negative means.
So can I just ask you?
Sure.
Can I just inject there? So would that mean that they would have to be paying additional application fees each time they reapply for this visa?
At the moment, no. So if they have to renew the 30-day time, the 30-day time limit would normally require that you'd have to, pay some type of fee for it. But at the moment, they can get this free of charge, but they would need to go ahead and contact the UKVI or get the representative to do so, and they'll be able to just apply for it until either side open, and they'll be able to travel over.
Okay, I see. How does this impact on employment, especially?
Okay, so with regards to employment, so it's been quite strange actually, because the areas that would be normally quite fixed in what you're allowed to do has changed. So in terms of employment, certain aspects of the points-based system, like tier twos and so forth, they've been quite lenient with the hours that you can do, especially if you're in the medical profession. So there's been a huge concession with the amount of time that can be done, which is really, really good. And it just means that obviously there's more support on the ground when it comes to the NHS, especially for those working in the NHS fields, or in the medical field rather. On the other side, what we're noticing is a lot of British sponsors of people that have of family members that are abroad who would depend on them to do a family visa. Unfortunately, if they have been furloughed, this affects them drastically. So the rules normally are that you have to earn £18,600 minimum to be able to sponsor your fiance, spouse, whatever, from abroad to come and settle in the UK. So that'll be the basic requirement, which normally would be quite easy to obtain in London, because that's starting salary almost, isn't it? And a bit more difficult all around the UK. But at the moment, everyone is put in the same boat if you're a sponsor and if you've been furloughed. Normally, you'd have to provide 6 months of payslips, bank statements, if you're in category A, to show that overall your annual income is £18,600 or more. But if you've been furloughed, then obviously that's going to be reduced drastically, isn't it? So what that effectively means is if you were earning £18,600 and you're now down to 15,000 or 17,000, there is no discretion at the moment. Your application will be liable for refusal.
Oh, sad, because that's oddly their fault, isn't it? I'm sure so is there anything that like the immigrations, the solicitors or legal practitioners like yourself, is there anything you can do to help these people?
Yeah, at the moment, what has been happening is we've been requesting consultations from the UKVI and awaiting their advice basically as to what is going to happen, whether there's going to be any type of concessions. Because a prime example is if you were a visitor in the UK and your visa ran out, but you couldn't get, or your visa was due to expire and you couldn't get back home because of all the closures. Now the rules have changed so that basically you can automatically just renew that visa. There's been concessions where if you normally have to return to your country of origin to make an application, to stay in the UK for a longer time period, you don't have to do that anymore. So in those areas, there's been concessions. And we're just waiting to see if there's going to be any concessions in family law, or rather family immigration law, especially because our sponsors that are being furloughed or have even lost their jobs, this is absolutely no fault of their own. They've voluntarily done it. That's one of the things we're doing as practitioners. The other thing that, is something that I assume the UKVI might propose as a solution for sponsors is that they seek additional employment. So whether that be driving delivery vans or whatever the case might be, to top up and meet the shortfall. So if they've been furloughed and they're getting something like 17 grand, they might suggest something like, or what we would even suggest is try and get a delivery job or something that will just bring you that extra, so that you can cover either category A or category B of the sponsorship rules as a spouse. But it's not easy, and we fully understand that it's not something that is our fault. So it's our duty as practitioners to show due diligence in client care and advise clients accordingly, just to be able to protect their interests, the financial and emotional interests as well.
That's so much value you've given us there, and there's a lot of information, a wealth of information in there. But can we just ask you quickly, because we only have time for just a couple more questions? What is your top tip for today? That's one. But then what I wanted to know is, what would you like anyone listening to right now take away to act on today?
Okay. So top tip for today is whether we are in the situation where we are applying for visas, or if we know anybody that is applying for visas, really support each other. You know, there are some very small concessions within family immigration, especially when it comes to Article 8 and family life, and when it comes to certain areas where you can have additional help. Really support each other, know what's going on with our friends and family so that we can offer any support or as much support as possible, because we will really need that. The other thing I would definitely say is make sure that you have good legal representation. For other individuals that are applying or will be applying for a visa that is due to be renewed, go and speak to your employer first. If you know that visa is going to expire, ask to have a word with your employer. Your employer will be worried or concerned that they're going to have a fine if they retain you. So you need to be proactive and go in and say, look, my visa is due to expire and this is the rule, you know. So I need to make sure that I have good representation, number one. Okay, when you have a good legal representative, they'll be able to put your application in on time, and your application will be able to come under 3C. And that basically means that once your application is in, and the UKVI fees have been paid for, and the IHS fee, which is an NHS fee, once that has been paid for, whatever leave you had before continues. So you are still legal even if your visa expires whilst in the hands of the. So, you know, employers need to understand that, and it's important that you as an employee go in and speak to your employer and get your solicitor or legal representative to support you with a letter explaining that this has been submitted, showing the receipt from the UKVI. You know, I know it's quite private. We don't want our business to be known by people, but, you know, we need to make sure we are legal. And if it's just for that little minute that you show your employer, I've submitted my visa application, then, you know, we've got to think long term. It's going to be better to do and to really get that support from good legal representatives.
Thank you so much. You've given us so much value, Amani. And we just wanted to say to anyone point@gmail also pass this information. Till next time, we'll see you on the other side. And I'm sure we'll have you back because there's so much value you've given us today. Thank you so much, Amani.
Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you. Bye.